Hi and welcome to another video in the RHCSA video series. Today's video is on set enforcing and permissive modes for SELinux. SELinux, or Security Enhanced Linux, was created by the NSA, which is the National Security Agency in America, and so it's just designed to improve the security of a Linux machine. So in most cases it's enabled now by default, so certainly for Red Hat Linux you'll get SELinux enabled by default. There's a bit of spiel from Red Hat exactly what SELinux is. So SELinux defines access controls for the application, processes and files on a system. It uses security policies, which are a set of rules that tell SELinux what can or can't be accessed, to enforce the access allowed by a policy. So when you have an application or process, in this case they call it a subject, if the application or process makes a request to access an object such as a file or something like that, SELinux will check the access vector cache, where it will where the permissions are cached for subjects and objects. If it's not able to make a decision based on the cached information, it will then go to the security server. The security server will then check the security context of the app or the process and the file. The security context is then applied from the SELinux policy database. Permission is then granted or denied. And if you get a permission denied, you get a nice ABC denied message that's available in var/var/logs/messages. So essentially it just allows the application to run. However, it just prevents the applications from making changes on the system where it's not allowed to. So you get context in such. So for a good example, say if a hacker's attacked your machine and he's got an application that he's running to potentially do some kind of attack. If he's trying to make changes to a file he's not allowed to using using a script, then SELinux would automatically block that. So you can see the power there. It really is quite a good solution. So what we do first is we'll just do get information about what the status of SELinux is currently. It'll probably be in well, it should be in enforced mode, and then we'll reboot this. We'll make some changes to make it permissive mode, reboot the server, and I can then run through some ABC denied messages. So let's launch the terminal. As always, we don't need to be root for this particular, but let's just do that anyway. So we can do get enforce, so we'll get the exact enforcement status for SELinux. So currently it's enforcing, and then we can run a SE status, which will get the SELinux status. So we can see it's enabled as the application itself, and we can see the current mode is enforcing. So it's going to be currently blocking anything that doesn't meet the security requirements. So next thing would be to do is to make the change to make it permissive mode. So there might be some reasons why you might have to enable in permissive mode. So a very good example would be, say if you have an application that specifically doesn't support SELinux, so that can happen. I've certainly seen that before. So the vendor itself will say, to install this application, please have SELinux in permissive mode, and we won't support it in any other mode. So in that case, you can certainly follow the vendor's recommendation, or what you could potentially do is have it in enabled mode, and then if there are any issues, you can put it into permissive mode. As I'll show you it's very quick and easy to switch between the modes. So we'll just go and get to the right area to switch the modes. So SELinux, and then config, so it's just vi etc SELinux config. So there's two configuration lines here. So the first one is the type, so the current state. So there's enforcing, which is going to enforce the policy we've got. Permissive will allow every action, but will have warnings printed. And then find disabled, so the SELinux policy is actually not loaded at all, so it won't do any action at all. And then we've got SELinux types, so we've got targeted, so only the targeted processes are protected. Minimum, so it's a modification of a targeted policy. It's only got certain processes that are protected in that case. And MLS, which is the ultimate protection, is the multi-level security protection. In most cases, enforcing and targeted are the two ones you want, unless you really know what you're doing. Okay, so to make it permissive, we just literally change the SELinux equals from enforcing to permissive and do a right quit and then just reboot the system. Okay, so now we've rebooted. We can again just double check to see if it's actually made the change. So if we go back to terminal, do a sudo bash because we need it for later, and just do a get enforce, and we can see it's permissive mode, and we can also do the SE status. We can see the actual SELinux is enabled, so the policy is enabled. It's still looking at the policy, but it's in permissive mode. Okay, the final real thing I wanted to cover was to look at the AVC messages. So if we just go to var log messages, and we can actually just / and type in AVC : 2 spaces and then denied. And you can see in the AVC denied events, and we can see a bit more information about that. So you can see it's the path what it's trying to run, so dbus service. You can see the command line itself, all of that there, and the context information. So the context will go in a bit more detail in another video, but for now you can just see the information about the denied message. And for completeness, I'll add here just a complete SELinux message. So we've got a complete block here, and we're getting a error message. So they actually say they actually have in the log a complete message place. So we can look at this command SELert and -L and then the actual alert number. So if you copy that, you can have a look about a bit more information about the alert itself, and also some recommendations SELinux may have. So we have so these the SELinux is preventing this application load keys from using the DAC override capability. I have no idea what that is, but plugin DAC override suggests you maybe have the wrong file permissions, or you may have to look at the auditing and have a look exactly what's going on there. It could be some kind of file permissions, they reckon. I think that was actually fixed by updating the application itself, so it's probably a bug in the system, but it's good to know and be able to see exactly what's happened, and you can see the ABC denied and a bit more information about it. You can see when it's first and last seen there, which is quite interesting. So, and you can see how many times it actually happened. So if you see it multiple times and it's constantly happening, then we know we've got an issue. If it's happened once, perhaps maybe it's something just to review and just double check everything's good, but it may not be something you actually need to work on. And just for completeness, so if we want to turn back SELinux on, so it's just back to etc. SELinux and then config, and then just update that field back to enforcing. And that is it. As always, I put my Ko-fi page on here. So yeah, if you've got any inclination, please drop a donation. That'd be awesome. Then I've got my TeePublic for any t-shirts or anything like that if you're interested in anything like that. My Discord page for any questions. Started to get a bit more active, which is fantastic. As always, like and subscribe if you haven't already. That would be much appreciated. I'm trying to reach the 1K goal. We're nearly there, so please help out where you can. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks again.